entering the Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience mini version presented by DraftKings. Smash the like and sub to the channel while you're here. The full rankings are down in the description, as is the injury report. Right now, if you want to go check out all of the cheat sheets. However, Nick Chubb out for the season on Monday Night Football, which works in direct opposition to the ranking show that Jake and I did on Monday. Now, we didn't really talk about Nick Chubb all that much, but obviously we had him ranked. We did not have Jerome Ford ranked, and we were talking about the waiver wire. We didn't really mention Jerome Ford all that much, but that has changed as of right now. So the rankings are all updated. We can jump over right now and check them out on DK Network. Again, you can find these in the description. So for week 3, not everything has changed. However, you can see that Jerome Ford now comes in at number 14 in the running back rankings for week number 3. He'd actually probably be a little bit higher, but this Tennessee matchup has not been good for any running back so far in 2023. We were kind of crossing our fingers. This was the one Nick Chubb mentioned, that Nick Chubb would be the one who would kind of break this for everyone and really try to see if it's a legitimate thing that the Titans' run defense is very good, or they've just played really bad running back so far. That Jamal Williams, not very good. He's also injured, by the way, Jamal Williams. We'll talk about New Orleans here in a second with this update. But 14 for a guy that's going to catch seemingly a few passes out of the backfield. I do want to jump over to runthesims.com for a minute and check out how that projection actually looks like when you put it onto paper. So you can see, taken out, put zeros across the board for Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford, 65% of the rushing share. That's 17 for Deshaun Watson, 15 for Lucky Pierre Strong. We'll talk about the waiver in a minute, but this is what they're going to roll with this week. That could obviously change by the time Friday comes around. They sign Cam Akers or something like that. If he ends up getting cut, Kareem Hunt ends up coming back. Uncle Lenny Fournette is still lingering out there in free agency. So there's always room that they can go sign someone else. I just don't think it's going to happen so much this week. So with Jerome Ford, you bump up to 60% of the touchdown market share on this team. That's the most if he's going to be the primary running back in this matchup. A 9% target share. That could be even higher based on the way that he was utilized with Deshaun Watson. So he's to turn a few of those Deshaun Watson runs into dump offs. All of a sudden you pick up like 2 extra catches. That could be good for like 12 extra yards. Your market share of touchdowns goes up just a little bit, and all of a sudden you're doing pretty well. So for Jerome Ford, it's actually a very enviable spot. So being a low-end running back 1, high-end running back 2 for week 3 is not out of the realm of possibility. Now, the big thing for the week is going to be your waiver wire. How much FAAB do you dump on to Jerome Ford? I think it really depends on where you are and how desperate you are for a running back. Like, dumping the bankroll on him actually seems like a pretty feasible it's a great idea at the moment. Because who else is Pierre Strong really going to be the one that takes away Jerome Ford's job? No, he's not. But again, then you have to hedge against them bringing in another running back who either splits time or takes this job. And that's going to be the risk. Like Zach Moss right now is still out on the waiver wire. We know Jonathan Taylor is going to come back at some point. So if you were planning on spending a bunch of money on Zach Moss, you may as well just spend all that money on Jerome Ford instead, basically because there's no one in the immediate future. There's no guarantee that someone is going to come take his job. We know with Zach Moss, someone is coming for that job as of right now. Maybe Jonathan Taylor ends up getting traded or cut, or maybe to the Browns. Who knows? I mean, there's a perfect fit for you right there. But in the near future, you can't really hedge on what a team may do 3 weeks from now. You're in a position where there is no one ahead of him on the depth chart. For the rest of the season, you're probably looking, if no one comes and takes his job, at a top 24 running back at the very least, maybe a top 15 guy if he catches a bunch of passes and he gets like 4, 5, 6 targets a game, which is not inconceivable in this offense. If he is the guy, then he could be a potential top 10 guy. That's something that you break the bankroll for. There's only so many of these guys that come along. Now, that's not to say that he's going to be this guy, but of anyone that has cropped up on the waiver wire so far this season, he does have the best path to be an impact player on your team for the rest of the season. So that's something that I would invest in. Now, if you don't need running backs, you don't need to blow the FAAB budget. But if you're in desperate need of a running back and you need to catch up and you need to potentially grab a star onto your team, could he be a star in real life? Probably not. Could he be a fantasy star for you as some dude that you picked up off the waiver wire? Absolutely. In the world of the Craig Reynolds and the Matt Breidas and all the other jabronis that you're looking to pick up this week on the running back waiver wire, there's no one that is going to touch Jerome Ford this week. Now, watch 3 hours from now, they'll sign Leonard Fournette, and this will all be really stupid, but as it stands right now, and always monitor all the information up to waiver wire, and it's going to be really crappy if you spend 90% of your budget or 80% of your budget. You know your league better than anyone. I hate this place like, well, out of a budget of 100, you have to spend $61 on them. It's like, you know what your league spends on players like this. Especially if you've been playing in the league a while. Like, the guys that will refuse to ever spend their FAAB budget. Just count them out. If they need a running back, they're not spending $100. And then you have the super aggressive dude that makes the big impact every single year. And it's probably like a 50-50 chance that he's going to go all in on this guy. And it's probably a 50-50 chance that Jerome Ford ends up paying off for you and is a starter for you 8 weeks from now. But if he is a starter 8 weeks from now on your fantasy team, he's going to be a very good one. So I would say take the risk if you need it, and don't worry about any of the other dudes on the waiver wire this week. Jamal Williams also did get hurt with a hamstring. I assume that just means he's out for next week, because that's all we've really been seeing from hamstring injuries so far in 2023 is you get one and you are out. Kendre Miller was close to playing on Monday night, so maybe he can end up playing against Green Bay in week 3. So he would probably be the top option. We'll see how that goes in practice this week. If he gets a full run of practice in, you would almost just insert him into the Jamal Williams role. Because frankly, Tony Jones Jr. scored 2 touchdowns, but he's not going to be the guy. We've been down the Tony Jones Jr. show before. It doesn't really ever turn out well. He'll be in the mix, and so will Taysom Hill, obviously. Now, if there's no Kendre Miller and no Jamal Williams, and obviously Alvin Kamara can't come back till next week, you might as well just pick up Taysom and play him at tight end this week, and Tony Jones would become like a mid-20s running back just based on volume alone. So keep an eye out on what the injury report is saying. Again, Tony Jones is not someone I'd be like, oh man, I desperately need a running back this week. Go get me Tony Jones, because even if you know that Miller is out, he's still not going to be like that great, because Taysom might steal his job and steal his touchdowns. So again, The thesis of this all is blow your money on Jerome Ford. Don't really worry about the other running backs. And Alvin Kamara is coming back next week, which is great news for both Alvin Kamara owners and New Orleans Saints fans, because the running backs have just been atrocious so far. All of the rankings are down in the description right now. The projections you can find at runthesims.com/Mayo, along with all of the other tools. I highly recommend you check that out. And sub to the Mayo Media newsletter for those updated injury reports every single day. Today's injury update is down there already in the description, so please go check that out. Smash a like on the way out, sub to the channel, and that will do it for me. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!